right. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mental Health Mondays. This is a not only international episode, but we are dual hemispheres, or maybe even quad hemisphere. I don't know. We're in opposite hemispheres. I am talking to one of my newest friends in the internet verse, in the Twitter verse, one of the coolest people that jump into Twitter spaces. I'm talking about the jack of all trades, but he might be a master of some as well. This dude is blowing up, and he is definitely a fascinating individual. I'm talking about my buddy here, Redim Ameti. Redim, thanks for joining Mental Health Mondays.
How are you going, Mind Runner?
It's going very well. I've been actually real excited about talking to you, and thank you for bearing with me with my time zone challenged understanding of time zones. I was like that. I sent you the GIF. I'm sitting there. Okay, so 7 a.m. his time, 4 carry the one. All right, and we figured it out, but I'm still figuring out time zones. Heck, even Pacific time throws me off sometimes.
No, dude, you're good. I'm getting used to being on X and being around so many people with different time zones. Like, I've got a good buddy in Brazil, some in India, in Britain, and it's just my sleep schedule is crazy. So
right,
I'm used to it.
Well, and that's kind of the interesting thing. People familiar with Twitter Spaces is it's basically like the old school part. We used to have party lines where people would just like get on in a chat room and just like chat with each other. So Twitter Spaces kind of becoming that. Usually there's some kind of topic, but like you could go in, like I'm East Coast of the United States. I might go in at 8:00 my time, and then like when the Pacific time zone people pop in, they're fresh. And then just when I'm thinking, all right, well, things are winding down, that's when like Japan jumps in, or Australia, everybody, India jumps in, and now it's like, oh, okay. It's before you know it, it's like the sun is rising and you've been in the space, but it's always a fun time.
By the way, do I call you Mind Runner, or is your name Aaron?
Yes, you can call. I go by Mind Runner, but also you can call me Aaron or AA Ron sometimes. That's
AA Ron.
Yeah, AA Ron sometimes is my what I go by when I mess up. I know that's a nod to the Key and Peele skit, or you done messed up, AA Ron.
I love that. Okay. Well, AA Ron, I have a quick story to tell you about time zones and spaces.
Yes.
So yesterday, Blaze obviously did I don't know what she ended up with, but when I had joined the space, it was on like 28, 29 hours. So
yeah.
I don't know what she got to, but last week, me and my buddy Gabriel, we host 2 weekly spaces, and the one in the middle of the week, for my time, it starts at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday evening. And usually I have to go to bed by around midnight.
Yeah.
I stayed on a little bit after, so I stayed on for about 3 hours or so. And I was like, all right, we're probably going to wrap up soon. And then I realized, okay, these guys are just going to keep going. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to bed. You guys enjoy.
Yep.
I wake up at around 6:00 in the morning, and I check my X notifications, and I get a notification saying your space name has changed, and it's at Redim Ameti. Wake up. So these guys are still going, like 9 hours deep. And I jump in and I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like, how are you going that long? And my mind was just blown. And that ended up being like a 12-hour space. I stayed on for a couple hours before starting work for the day. And I'm like, where in the world does this ever happen? Like, this is crazy.
Well,
it's insanity.
It's kind of like passing the baton. I mean, we could probably have, like, it's probably feasible we could keep a perpetual space going indefinitely, as long as you have enough hosts to, like, you know, Blaze even did get some sleep, not as much as she should. In fact, Amber Champagne was going to chew her out for not having self-care. But at my understanding today, she had to finally bail on the space because before she got to she didn't quite get to 48 hours, but she passed the 24 mark. I think she got to close to 36. I think it was 32 or 34 when she finally bailed, and she joined our writers block with Stephanie and Heidi. But
Step
yeah.
it up, Blaze. Step it up.
Well, it's funny too because like we joke about it, and it's one of those things where it's kind of like you can to see how far can we push it, how far can we go. I mean, you just plug Norwood in for that's you're good for at least 12 hours right there. But then
Nice.
he'll just go on about any and be entertaining, grab more people. But it also fascinates me from the beginnings, the potential of what you can turn that into. I don't know. When I was growing up, we had the Jerry Lewis telethons, where for like 2 days they would take over a network show, a network channel, and just for 48 hours they would nonstop have this like pledge drive that bring in celebrities and performers to try to raise money for muscular dystrophy. And I was thinking if we could Twitter space where it's like, if we're trying to help raise money or something, that might be interesting to bring in guests and have like a Twitter space marathon where we have a goal in mind and we're just bringing in people to chat. That might be something we could do.
That's a great idea. And I'm not too familiar with Jerry Lewis, but I know someone. I used to work with someone who was a Jerry Lewis impersonator. So
Wow.
that
takes
he used to.
talent.
Him and his father used to actually host shows as Jerry Lewis and someone else. I don't know who.
Probably D. Martin. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
So this world of like Twitter and just there's a bunch of stuff. I had to write a bunch of notes down for you, man. There's a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, but of course we'll let the conversation go wherever. But just a little bit about yourself. You're kind of diving in at a really cool time with Twitter, and you're kind of really you seem to be exploring a lot of it. You seem to have a good balance of understanding the tech side, but you also seem to understand the audience and humanity side. And you've brought a lot of value to a lot of the spaces I've been in with you. So what has been your experience so far with Twitter and with social media in general?
Thanks for saying that, man. When I joined Spaces for the first time, it was, what is this feature on Twitter?
Yeah.
I knew that Periscope was a thing, and I still actually in the shower today I was thinking, is Periscope and Spaces I know that they use the same code, but I don't know if the features are the same because I never used Periscope.
Yeah.
But anyway, besides the point, when I first joined in a space, I was like kind of terrified to actually join it. Like I just opened someone's space and I'm like, oh, it sounds like looks like they're having a live conversation there, as if I'm joining someone's Discord server, right?
Right.
And yeah, and what happened was a few weeks ago, a friend of mine who is a pianist, she has a concert group of classical musicians that host shows like a few times a year. And she asked me after their last show if I'd like to MC their next one. And I have zero public speaking experience. So I said, definitely not.
Yeah, but I get it though.
But literally the next day, a friend of mine asked if I'd like to join Toastmasters with them. And I thought, okay, public speaking is actually something that I've wanted to learn for a really long time. So I'm like, all right, let's do Toastmasters. And I messaged my friend, hey, is that offer still up? I'd like to do it. And she said, sure, if you want. And I go, hell yeah, okay. So I went to Toastmasters and I was like, all right, now I have something to look forward to. That event still hasn't happened. That's in mid-December, I think. And shortly afterwards, I joined a space and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to speak. This is public speaking practice.
Oh, good for you.
And it was terrifying, but I got in there and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's just a conversation with friends.
Whew.
Yeah.
You got to dive right in though. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, go ahead. You just got to dive right in, right?
Basically, yeah. And I still get that nervous feeling when I jump into spaces, and I don't know if I'm always going to be able to provide the value that I'd like to, but that's sort of how I view it. Like I'm just pushing myself out of my comfort zone, and if I can say something that interests, educates, or entertains, then awesome. But if not, then sorry.
Yeah, but that's exactly what you need to do, and I think it's really hard. I mean, kudos to you for just diving in. You got to push yourself out of that comfort zone, and like, to get better at anything, we have to practice. We have to start. And something I read in your Substack a little, it was touching on that. Don't overthink it. And I think a lot of times we overthink when, we sit there, we want it to be perfect, or we don't want it, we're afraid of not providing value. But if you just go in there, especially a lot of the spaces you and I frequent, they tend to be very supportive. But even if you go into a hostile space, what is it? It's, who cares?
You just leave.
Yeah, just leave. Like, all right, well, I guess you don't like what I'm selling. I'm out of here. You don't like what I'm talking about. It's that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of value in just, like, one of the things, like, I'm trying to get back into the gym and lose weight and get back into shape. But
Hell yeah.
I can convince myself that not going to the gym is a good idea if I'm not holding myself accountable. But if I can just get to the gym before my mind realizes what I'm doing and not think about it, then I'm there. I'm already there. And now I can't talk myself out of it. You know what I mean? So just like
Yeah.
something to just jump. Don't think about jumping out of the plane. Jump out of the plane. You'll be fine. Right?
I love that. Yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. If you consider it, then it's like, oh, you've already lost. You've already lost the battle. You know?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Because you can be very convincing to yourself if you want to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
go ahead.
I'm right there with you, dude. I was I don't use freedom units, so I might be wrong. I was 40 kilos heavier and maybe 85 to 90 pounds heavier like a year ago. So
Wow,
I'm right there with you.
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a hell of a journey. So I'm excited. I'm excited for you getting back into it as well.
Well, I'm hopefully in a year from now I'll be able to say about the same thing. So we'll see. Maybe tell you what, this time next year we'll do another episode, and we'll do a before and after. You'll see
Hell
me, and
yeah.
hopefully I'll be a little bit better. And a lot of it is just like circumstance up to this point. But now I'm in a position where the only excuses are me. That's the only thing. But that's cool. Congratulations. How did you get to how did you get to that mindset where you could lose the weight? Was it was it just really easy? Did you just say, hey, I'm going to do it? Or was it a long, hard process?
It was a really long, hard process. It's really easy to say a year ago I was this much heavier, but it's actually really fitting for the theme of this podcast, which is Mental Health Mondays. Honestly, the thing that helped me most was starting therapy.
Awesome.
So to go back a few years, I was just sort of out of shape a little bit before COVID. And then when the lockdown started, I was like, all right, time to eat like I will never see anyone ever again.
Yep.
And I just got really unhealthy. I let myself go. A lot of people did. But then it was really difficult to reverse that. So
yeah,
there was a lot of false starts, and a lot of just like beating myself up mentally about the circumstance that I'd found myself in. And it wasn't until I could let go of any goals that I was holding on to and just sort of like I stopped trying to lose weight. I stopped trying to do anything, to be honest. Like it wasn't like giving up. It was like, all right, let's just take the pressure off for a moment. And
interesting.
Yeah, and I thought let's dive inward. So I started therapy. I'm like, I want to understand what's holding me back and let go of whatever emotional baggage that I may have. And through that, I was able to just slowly, one foot in front of the other, day by day. It got easier and easier over time. But yeah, it was really just put one foot in front of the other. Today, this might be a little bit difficult, but it's okay. So here's one thing that I learned. I was kind of nervous about guesting on your podcast, to be honest, because I've never been a guest. I thought I don't have many stories to tell, so I'm like, I came prepared with like a bunch of things that I've learned that I could share.
Go for it. I'm glad.
So one of the things that I learned in therapy was that there are 4 judgments that people make. There's judgment of yourself, there's judgment of other people, there's judgment of what other people think of you, which is a big one. Then there's also judgment of the present moment, which is sort of the one that you don't think of as a judgment, but it's there. So if you're waiting in line and you feel like this is boring, or for me, it was getting home from work, being stressed out. I don't like this feeling, so I was looking to food to fix that. Like understanding that, and just day by day, just slowly like undoing the little pressures that I was holding on to, the tiny resentments, and not saying I'm a finished product, but I guess that's how it happened.
That's awesome. No, that's fantastic. And hold on, let me cross off on my notes the 4 judgments, because I did write that down. Because I'm fast, because I did read that and I was fast. I really like that, because I think, and number 3 again, I think that's something a lot of us suffer from is we're worried about other people's opinions, and now there's a difference between, we want to be respectful. We don't want people to think we're an a-hole or anything like that, but to let those kind of control us is definitely a problem. But I think that's fascinating that you a lot of times what holds us back with a lot of our goals is that lack of reflecting on the inside and really pulling those things out. And again, the fact that you're open to talk about that is tremendous. So what were some of those things that you were holding on to that you're able to release?
Good question. There was a lot of stuff from childhood that I won't get into details of, but just briefly, I have divorced parents, and I didn't live the roughest of childhoods. Like I had it pretty good, but just general abandonment problems. People like feeling like I always need others' approval. That's a big one, and it's still kind of there. Like if I do feel anxiety day to day, it's usually stemming from that. Like I want this person's approval, and wanting to control how others perceive me, but it's impossible to control that. So it's important. I find it important to remind myself that often. That's a big one.
How old were you when your parents split up?
I was really young, maybe like 2 or 3, but old enough to remember a few things. Like, suddenly, as a child, my dad's not around as much. Not because he doesn't want to be, but because he couldn't be. And like it didn't take me. It didn't like until I looked inward. I didn't realize how much that it affected me. Like even now, I feel myself getting emotional just talking about it. Because these things run deep, right? Like, when you're a child, you don't have the ability to process these emotions, so they get stuck with you. And if you don't look inward to understand them, you can't really resolve them. That's how I've understood it.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's interesting because my folks split up. My folks split up when I was 11, but it was clear growing up that they were not like they were living in the same house but not together. You know what I mean? Like, in fact, I remember distinctly one time I spent the night at a friend's house, and I noticed how his parents were very affectionate to each other. I mean, they weren't making out in front of us, but it was like, they were like hug each other, and they called her sweetie pie and all that. And I never saw my parents do that to each other. And then I came home and I asked them, I said, "How come you guys don't kiss?" And they both looked at each other and they just couldn't explain to me why. And it was one of those observations. And I too have that fear of abandonment, that fear, and that need to to that people pleaser thing, and it's really taken me a long time to kind of get a control of that. And it's never going to fully go away, that feeling, because it is kind of, when you're young, especially, I mean, too, but when you're growing up and you're a kid and you're in that developmental stage, a lot of that stuff gets programmed into your DNA. It gets programmed right in the hard drive,
Yeah, it lives in your body.
Yeah.
I think Ray was talking about a book, might have been Ray, might have been someone else, a book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
It's about how trauma lives with you, like literally. That book talks about PTSD from, I think, Vietnam veterans, but it's so true in all aspects of life. Like it does literally live in your DNA.
It does, and it takes a lot of introspection, and we a lot of times, therapy gets thrown around sometimes nowadays, but it's great that we talk about it, because true therapy can take many forms, but it's important to really talk and open up about these things, because that's how you feel like you truly find that growth. But but what's great about that is the fact that you did that introspection and identified those things. And how did that help you move forward with your goals?
That's a good question, because really it didn't, but it stopped me from holding myself back in ways that I was previously, I think. So it wasn't like a direct thing of me understanding myself a little bit better means I'm more effective and I'm able to grind better towards my goals.
It's not like, oh, that's why I feel all right, I'm gonna go to the gym now.
Exactly. But it helped me undo some of the like patterns of self-sabotage maybe that I was in, which helps. Like that's huge.
Yeah.
So I guess indirectly it helped.
It does.
That answers the question.
Yeah. No, you did. Absolutely. Because, I mean, in a way, I mean, you've got to kind of, sometimes people, they call it battling your demons, or, unpacking your baggage, or there's a lot of different analogies that people use, but there is a lot to that. And, it's interesting because we live in a time now where we're a lot more we're more open to talk about mental health, especially with guys. There was a time where mental health for guys was just suck it up and toughen up, walk it off. Oh, you had a bad day, go walk it off in the rain or something. But conversely, with the more we talk about mental health on the other side, though, I feel like, and I don't know if you see this too, but I feel like as a society, as a global society, we want that instant cure. We want that instant gratification where, like, I need to lose weight. So, all right, I need to lose 100 pounds by tomorrow. It's like, no, it's going to take a long time. Or, I want friends. So tomorrow I'm going to go make sure and then people set themselves up do you think people set themselves up for disappointment that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I can only speak for myself, but I do see it in others as well. And it's a pattern that I've noticed just looking back. When you put any goal like that on a pedestal, you create distance between yourself and it. And it's like, I think a business guy called Alex Hormozy, I don't know if you know him, he says that when you set a goal, you're creating a contract with yourself to be unhappy until you achieve that goal.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's it is. Really it's good. A cool way to look at it. And not to say that we shouldn't have goals, but just to understand what the implications are. Like when you're always like yearning for something, it's sort of hard to move forward and accept your current circumstances and take the next step. So there has to be an aspect of what you were saying before. Like you just need to like put the overthinking aside and like look after your best interests, like as if you were a good mate of yours or even your own child. Like if you're looking after your own child, you wouldn't be like dangling a carrot in front of them,
Come on.
Or maybe you do. Maybe
I don't know. Hey, we raise kids really differently in the United States sometimes. Some of these people, they got some new parenting techniques that, okay, it's not a carrot. It's usually a cell phone or an iPad or something, or Nintendo
Yeah.
Switch.
I don't know if my thoughts around that are complete, but I don't even know how we. Yeah, how did we get to here? Can you help me backtrack a little bit?
Oh well, we're again. This is something common on this show. We kind of go all over the place, but just kind of get back to like the how self introspection helps you moving forward. And you were quoting about how if you focus too much on the goal on a pedestal, it can be self defeating or it could be very intimidating. But if you don't overthink it, then you're not worried. You're not constantly comparing yourself to where you want to be, and how important is it to also celebrate your victories? Like, because if you, like you said, you had a lot of false starts with your weight loss, but, you know, I like quoting even fictional characters. And there was a very wise dwarf in Game of Thrones who once said that, when don't worry about starting over, because when you start again, you're starting with the experience of all the times you've started before. Do you see it that way?
I love that. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that quote.
Yeah.
um,
Well,
that's beautifully said.
I drink and I know things.
Love that. um, yeah, was that was Tyrion, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Just
of
to be
course.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
The best character. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I think he was the only dwarf in that
Yes,
series, right?
from my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. That took me a while to see.
Mhm.
I wrote a self-indulgently long post about this a few weeks ago.
Wait, you wrote a self-indulgent post? I've never seen that on Twitter X. I've never seen self-indulgent posts before. What are you doing, Redim?
Yeah, you've got to get around to it, man. They're lots of fun.
Right.
But basically, I detailed like all of the previous failures that I'd gone through, so to speak, and eventually I realized that, oh wait, actually I've been building up experience all this time. The moral of the story. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's true. As I'll tell you how I actually landed on Twitter.
Okay.
So, or X, sorry, Elon.
Twitter X. We get it.
As I was like halfway through, a little bit more than halfway through where I'm at with my weight loss journey, like, okay, I need some new clothes. My old clothes are starting to get big. And at the time I was learning web design. So I use a program called Figma to like mock up websites.
Cool.
Before I actually begin coding them. And being the nutter that I am, I started dragging photos of potential clothing purchases into Figma to see, okay, what goes together? Like I want to spend like as little as possible on a new set of clothes and make sure that the like the outfit combinations are going to be sufficient. Cool. So I realized, oh, these little like outfit graphics that I was creating look kind of good. And at the time, a cousin of mine, she showed me that she had like a few viral TikToks about interior decorating. And I go, oh, maybe I could upload these to TikTok. So I started uploading them to TikTok and they did okay. I still upload semi-frequently to that account. If anyone's curious, it's called Sartorial Lookbook.
All right, Sartorial Lookbook. We'll put it in the description.
And I have close to 10,000 followers on that account now.
Nice.
And it was just a happy accident. But I tried to monetize that by creating an e-commerce brand off of that. That didn't work out. And I was kind of bummed out for a while. Then I thought, I've learned a lot of skills on this.
Yes.
And what could I do with this? And I thought, okay, I'm sort of in the habit of creating social media content now. What if I was to do that under my own name? And Twitter seemed like the right place, wherein if you put things out under your own name, you hold accountability, and regardless of the project you're working on, you're going to make friends and connections along the way that will compound into the next project. So that was my thinking.
Yeah.
Because I was sort of there with Sartorial Lookbook, and I'm like, okay, well, kind of putting this on pause / giving up on it, but it's not really going to help me directly with the next project, other than the skills and experience, of course, that I gained along the way.
Yeah.
So that's how I landed on Twitter.
Very cool. No, and,
Yeah.
that's really awesome. I mean, and your perspective, I think, is fascinating. I highly encourage everybody to check out your Substack, because even though you've got your premium post, the first post that you have there, it's full of information and a very cool perspective. And I do want to talk about jack of all trades and and I want to ask you though, and this is something that I've wrestled with, because when I wanted to start Mental Health Mondays, this podcast, I wanted to make sure that I'm focused on a specific need, have a specific audience, but I also have a wide variety of interests. So how do you manage that line between, like, I don't want to say niche necessarily, but targeting a niche audience or targeting an audience, but also being someone of such a wide interest range?
Yeah, and thank you for checking out my Substack, by the way. Appreciate that plug.
Absolutely.
This is something that I'm still figuring out, to be honest. I did write a newsletter on it, but my thoughts are ever changing on this.
As always.
I'm figuring it out.
What? You haven't figured it out yet? You haven't figured out life?
Shame on me.
Right? Shame. Oh, I can't believe it.
So my current thoughts on this are that you probably need to have a niche in order for people to be able to relate to you. Just something in your bio, or that's obvious when you open your social media profile. This is what AA Run focuses on. It's Mental Health Mondays. But I think people are open to exploring that topic from your perspective. Like, they're there for you. And niches are there to... So when we think about niches, usually, unless it's something really hobbyist, even if it is a hobbyist niche, they're there to solve problems. I'm even thinking through this right now as we're talking. I'm into watches. I like watch collecting.
Cool.
And even that is sort of solving a problem in a weird materialistic sense of, like, people who create content around watches are like helping people decide which watch they should buy, right?
Yeah.
So even at its most fundamental concept, a niche is there to help you solve problems. But a problem, depending on what the problem you choose to solve is going to have multiple causes. So you're allowed to tackle that from all of those angles. And in my opinion, it's better to do that, because you're exposing your followers to a wider range of potential ways that they can solve that problem. And also, even if we're not talking about it from this analytical perspective, they're there for you as well. So,
yeah,
even if it's not directly related to your niche, as long as it's not like completely overtaking everything that you're doing, everything that they're there for, I think it's okay to sprinkle in a bit of personality. I talk about smoothie bowls on my Twitter sometimes.
What?
Yeah.
What are? Well, hold on. Hold the phone.
Yeah.
What are smoothie balls?
So,
because that's an entirely different. There's another website for smoothie balls. It's over 18.
I'm not aware of this other website, I promise.
Good for you. You don't worry about it.
Smoothie bowls are basically just, you throw frozen fruit into a blender and you call it a day without too much liquid, so it's like nice and thick, and you eat it with a spoon, and it's delicious and good for you, and they look great, perfect for the gram. I'll repost something. So if someone's seeing this and they want to check out some of my smoothie bowls,
If you want
really
to check out
random
Redim Smoothie
tangent.
Balls, follow him on Twitter for Redim's Smoothie Balls. Oh, dude,
Yeah.
that's definitely coming up in the spaces, man.
Hell yeah.
Awesome, Redim Smoothie Balls. That's cool.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome. Like and it's so funny too. Like out like different countries and different areas. Even in the United States, like northern, southern United States, there's different slang. Like I've always called, up until I married my wife, I've always called soda like soda or cola, but she's from Chicago. In Chicago, they call it pop. They call so it's so I have so now I'm calling it pop just because I'm saying, hey, you want to pop? You may want to pop. But if I was when I visit like my relatives in like southern United States, when I say, do you want to pop? They have no idea what I'm talking about. They
sounds
think
like gibberish.
do you want to pop? What, you want to pop? And then but then I say soda pop, then they go, oh, okay, I get it. But yeah, so we'll circle back to the smoothie balls.
Look, I think we might have tackled everything about smoothie bowls that there is to tackle, but if there is more to uncover, let's.
yeah, which is by which this episode, this portion of the podcast on smoothie where we talk about smoothie balls is brought to you by Manscaped, and for no connection at all to smoothie balls. All right, that's good. That's funny. But it's interesting too that like just kind of going back to what we were talking about before with Twitter, and just kind of how you can, like, for example, Mental Health Mondays, although it's the focus is mental health, the niche is like mental health, and ultimately my message is sharing stories from everybody on mental health, because we're all human. Your people a lot of times feel alone, but I want to share stories where people can hear from other people and realize they're not alone, that we all have very similar, not the same, but similar experiences, and that it's okay to talk about them. But what's cool about Mental Health Mondays is I can talk about ADHD with one person. I can talk about the effects of social media, and then we can talk about, like, we can talk about autism, and then we can talk about depression, suicide. We can talk about prescriptions. We could talk about how like things in the news affect people. So kind of like with your, like, unless you're like with your focusing on watches, you could cover quite a bit with still talking about some kind of timepiece. Like you could do watches versus clocks, or our watch timepiece is obsolete with the invention with now that iPhones are more efficient, or if you could go through a whole bunch of different topics, and I think so. I'm kind of thinking out loud with you. Stephanie and I were talking yesterday about the importance, not only, a lot of times people talk about finding your why whenever you start something, why are you doing it? But we think it's also important to identify your who, like who's your target audience. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think people often skip that step. So if we're talking about specifically content creation and picking your niche, from the context of solving problems, you need to understand who you're solving that problem for and what problem they're having. If you invent an imaginary problem to solve,
right,
people aren't going to pay attention. That's fine. But if you're putting things out in public for people to see, presumably you want them to see it. So there has to be a them for them to see it, right?
Right.
So that's another reason why I love Spaces, by the way, is because you jump in there and you're having real conversations with people, and you're hearing what people are saying. And if you listen closely, people will tell you what problems you can solve for them. And I think people skip that step, but it's so important.
It is. It is. Do you think though sometimes there's some people that don't want their problem to be solved? They just want to be heard.
Maybe that is a version of solving the problem.
Ah, ooh, yes. That's good. You're right.
Yeah.
That's the problem. There a lot of times, or that's the problem they need solving. It's like when they might say, I'm so depressed about this thing tomorrow. But then when you try to give them advice, they don't want it. But what they really are doing is they just want to be heard.
The acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement. And that's deep, dude. That's good stuff, man. All right, man. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and what needs do you see spaces providing for people, and where do you see spaces kind of like specifically with on X? Where do you see these kind of spaces evolving to?
Oh, that's a question, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Well, there's the obvious. To me, it's. I've found more people that are interested in the same things that I am in the span of like a month than I have in my whole life, basically.
That's cool.
So I'm having so many stimulating conversations, and it's a form of social need. I don't know exactly how to articulate it, but you know, we have real life friends and people and family. We might not be able to talk about everything we love with them on the same level that we can with people on spaces. Like I have a group that we talk. We got on a Zoom call the other day, and we just talked about our personal brands and our goals and what problems we're having with them. You can't talk about that with real life friends because they're not on the same path as you, right?
Yeah.
Well, you could, but you're going to bore them to death.
What algorithm? What?
Yeah. What do you mean shadow banned?
Yeah. What's that? Foot bots?
So I guess that. Sorry.
No, good.
There's a form of like just finding your people, I guess. Yeah, I don't know how better to articulate that, but it's not really possible anywhere else, or at least with the ease that I've been able to find other people that are like into the same stuff that I am, that I have on X.
I very similar, like I don't know if you've ever heard of, have you ever seen the music video for Blind Melon, No Rain? And it starts out, it's this girl and she's in a bee costume and she's tap dancing and everybody boos her, and she goes throughout the whole video. She's going around to different people in the city and she's dancing for them in her bee costume, and everybody's looking at her like she's strange, like what is her problem? Until they last little bit of the video, she comes to this meadow and she opens this gate and she sees all these different people dressed in bee costumes dancing in the meadow. And then she comes running in and she dances with everybody. And it's like she found her people, she found her tribe. And I think that's one of the benefits of spaces is, like, for example, like I'm a fan of professional wrestling. I like watch. That's my indulgence, where I can sit there and have this. I could sit there and talk about Emerson and Thoreau and behavior management and talk about Paget versus Vygotsky, and then turn around like, but what about John Moxley versus Kenny Omega? That kind of stuff. So that. But what's interesting is like around my real life, there's very few people that are into that. In fact, my wife, when we got married, was not into it. Now she's as much of a fanatic as I am. But that's a blessing. But what's interesting about social media is you find those people that have those similar interests and you're able to connect with them. But also on the other side, and I've always joked about this, that they always say every village has an idiot. Well, with social media, all the idiots can get together and form a mob of idiots and be very loud on social media. So all right, we're going to take a quick break from solving all of the world's problems to tell you about a good friend of mine and a service she's offering. Are you tired of feeling like your dream financial future is out of reach? Are you struggling with overwhelming debt, trying to pay off your home early, or simply wanting to give more? Well, my good friend Vanessa Rudder Jackson is here to help. An educator and military veteran, Vanessa is here to guide you through the confusion and make your dream financial future a reality. With her certified financial coaching services, she'll help you create a personalized plan that sets you up to win with money. As an educator and a mother of two, Vanessa understands the challenges of scraping by and stretching paychecks. She's been there, and she knows how to navigate the financial landscape to help you thrive. Don't let financial stress hold you back any longer. Take the first step towards financial freedom today with Rudder Jackson Financial Coaching. Reach out to Vanessa today for a free 45-minute consultation at varudder34@gmail.com or go to tinyurl.com/RJ-Money-Coach. That's varudder34@gmail.com or tinyurl.com/RJ-Money-Coach. Remember, it's never too late to take control of your finances and achieve your dreams. Start your journey to financial freedom with Rudder Jackson Financial Coaching today. All right, now let's get back to solving the world's problems with the most charming host on the interwebs. What are some of the benefits you found, but also what are some cautionary tales or some things we need to really be careful of on social media that you think?
Oh, I don't know if I've been in it long enough to really have any cautionary tales, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Or things you're just kind of already be paying attention to.
I think it's important to be mindful of who you associate with. Mm-hmm. It's online, so there's still even though a lot of people use their real name, there's still a sense of anonymity. Mm-hmm. And I guess some people are willing to, I don't know, like there in every domain there are like energy vampires out there, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's important to be mindful of that and to protect your own energy. Luckily I haven't really dealt with that yet.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood, right? That's something that I'm wary of, that I would caution myself, like, yeah, just to beware, like that there are people out there that don't really have the best intentions for whatever reason, no judgment.
You feel like those kind of people though usually get found out eventually though, like as long as you keep it at arm's length, eventually you realize, okay, this is like, I found that eventually you start to figure out like who's genuine and who's not, even if it's not apparent right away. Or is it harder on social media because of that anonymity?
No, I think you're right. I think the village of idiots usually gather together and create their own village.
Yeah, I love that. Yes. Village of idiots.
So I think it's not too difficult to tell eventually, but yeah, I guess maybe they might slip through the cracks sometimes, and not everyone is. Everyone has their own, like, I don't know how to say it, but it's not. We're not like everyone has a bit of idiot in them,
Right? Yeah.
So you don't want to write people off.
True.
For one thing that they might have said that potentially rubbed you the wrong way.
Wait, what? No, that you got to cancel those people. As a social media touch anything, if somebody disagrees with you or does something stupid, you have to cancel them and never talk to them again, and never ask them why they feel that way, and never consider them human.
I didn't catch that memo, but you're convincing me. You're bringing me around.
Oh no! Come back to the light. No. But that isn't, what do you like? I mean, some people say cancel culture doesn't exist, but do you feel like we're becoming more absolutist with who, if you have to agree with everything I believe, or I don't want anything to do with you if you disagree with that one thing?
Dude, this is what I love about the little group that I've stumbled into with you and Blaze and Ben and Jay and Ray and Amber, like and Zeke. I'm forgetting names, so I'm gonna stop. But like I feel like we're allowed to have a difference of opinion. Like those are the types of people that I'm attracted to, where we can have different outlooks on things, but it's still respectful. Those are the types of people that I want to surround myself with, and
Absolutely.
that's just the nicest environment ever. Like there's, I don't know if it was a tweet, but I read this recently, where difference of opinion starts. That's not where I'm butchering it, but like where difference of opinion ends is not where disrespect starts. Something like that. I've got it the wrong way around, but you get the idea.
It's dude, if you've known how many quotes that I've butchered in my lifetime,
cool.
I mean,
makes me feel better.
I think it was that Abe Lincoln said, "Don't believe everything you read on the internet." that kind of stuff.
Confucius, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
I did, and I encourage people to check it out if you can. I took and this is actually leading my next question. I took a Walt Whitman. Just to kind of tell you what some of the recent spaces I've been in, and I really want to ask you this from the tech and from the humanity side. I've noticed a lot of folks are really like, there seems to be almost a hysteria now about worrying about getting shadow banned and deplatformed or pushed down or what have you, and like the invasion of bots, and it's starting to feel like like the Salem witch hunt, or like almost like McCarthyism, like who's a commie, it's like and I here's this goes back to we can be friends and still disagree, because like Space Cowboy and a bunch of these folks, they're really into this kind of stuff. But to me, it feels overwhelming when people are so focused on algorithm that they forget about audience. Which do you think is more important, or are they together? Worrying, like when you're on specifically like Twitter X or any social media platform, which should someone focus more on, audience or algorithm?
People, because the algorithm is made to keep people on the app. So by focusing on people, you sidestep the algorithm. So if people are attracted to your profile or to what you have to say, then the algorithm doesn't really matter in the end. I was in a space yesterday, Blazer's space, and Journeyman was saying that he doesn't have ads on his profile. I don't think he ever has, but he's just so awesome that people flock to him anyway.
Yeah. Well, so that's Journeyman.
Right.
Yeah. So fire. He's fire. He's fire, right?
He is. Fire. He absolutely is. So yeah, I think it's, at the end of the day, the algorithm is made for people. So if you focus on the people in one way or the other, I have to believe that the algorithm will favor you. That said, there are technical limits, right? Like there's stuff that I'm just getting privy to this stuff. So I don't know what to make of it, but there seem to be these rules that if you break these rules, your account is in violation. And
yeah,
it's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, there is a sense of McCarthyism to it, right?
Yeah, you can only retweet every third Thursday of the month, and you can't. You have to once you retweet a space, you have to unretweet it, and then you have to quote tweet it, and then send a DM to Elon saying you retweeted it. And at the risk of, I mean, and again, this is a community of people that I feel like we see the stuff we agree on is like ultimately like respect, mutual respect, and like constructive conversation. So if there's ever a disagreement, it's a communication. And I feel like most of us can learn from each other. I don't think any of us are coming into any of these spaces like we already know stuff. Like we have a take, but we're listening to each other. But like I sometimes wonder, like, are we starting to get a little cult like with some of the Elon worship? Like, I mean, he's a guy, he's a dude. I mean, he's this brilliant guy and he's doing great stuff, but it's like sometimes I almost feel I almost feel like we're, and now let's light a candle to honor the great and powerful God Emperor Elon, who has bequeathed this X space to us. And sometimes I'm like, oh, all right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know, dude. What are your thoughts?
I haven't come across too much Elon worship, gladly. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, actually, it sounds kind of fun, but
yeah, right. We need to form the secret society.
Yeah. Yeah, I think generally whenever you have communities, there are going to be things that people fixate on, and things get cult-like, and you got to zoom out every now and then to see that, I don't know, maybe too many candles are being lit.
Yeah, if you light too many candles, you're gonna catch fire, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Confucius, probably.
Probably, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sun Tzu, probably.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I haven't come across that too much, but I could see how that could get a bit weird.
I feel I'm just, my fear is this, is like, because I can feel myself. I felt myself starting to really worry. Like, did I retweet wrong, or did I post that tweet at the wrong time? I mean, you do need to pay attention to when people are on. Like, you don't want to, if you post something at 3 a.m., usually only the people that are on around 3 a.m. are going to see it. But then again, of course, now we're back to time. But now we're back to time zones because all that kind of stuff. But I want to focus on creating cool content. Kind of the journey, like you said. If my stuff is fire, people are gonna seek it out, and that's kind of where I'm heading with that. And I took an old Walt Whitman poem, and after I was sitting in one of the spaces, I felt like Walt Whitman. I don't know if you've heard the poem. I heard the learned astronomer, and it basically is he's listening to this astronomer give this lecture, and it's all data. He gets up and walks out of the room and just looks up at the stars. And what's cool about it is it's like, forget it. Like the astronomer's talking about space analytically, and then he just wants to go and marvel at the beauty. But so I changed astronomer to coder, and I changed all the things to like likes and retweets and engagement. And then I said I rose up and I just went on Twitter and read and liked all the posts that gave me joy, that kind of thing. And to me, it's because it's like, yeah, I'm sure some of that stuff's important, and maybe I'm doing stuff I don't know. Maybe I've got bots that are, giving me digital gonorrhea. I don't know, but it's like whatever it sounds like. But I just want to enjoy interacting with people. Another reason I created this podcast is I'm fascinated with people. Everybody's got a story, and I want to hear from people, and I'm fascinated by that. And that's kind of and lifting people up too. I want to lift everybody up. And
by the way, I just have to say, you are so good at that.
Oh, thank you.
Even just when you speak in spaces, like, you have a way of acknowledging everyone, and I just feel so seen every time you're there, and you're just like, there's little, I don't know, you have a generous way of sharing your attention with others, I guess.
And it works.
It does. It really, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because it's really nice. Like, I was saying to Stephanie in one of my spaces that we were going to do this podcast, and I was really looking forward to it. And I just said, every time Mindrunner speaks, it's just good vibes, man. So I just want to say, you're doing it well.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, brother. I feel the same about you. Like, whenever you're popping on, whenever I see it, like your hand raised and you're about to come in, you have a quiet, very logical cadence to you. And a lot of times you're chiming in after there's been a lot of this, a lot of very animated chat. And then you slide in you're almost like the calm down guy. Like, well, I just want to say, like, this is my imitation of you. Like, there's, well, I think that I can't believe they're killing people in Gaza. Well, that Gaza, what about Ukraine? I think there's babies dying in Haiti, and all of a sudden you'll go, well, I think it's great that everybody's here and we're out talking about this. And I think there's a bunch of ways we can look at this. And I'm terrible at Australian accents, so I'm going to try to get a little bit of an accent. And by the way, it's not shrimps on the barbie, it's prawns. Get it right. And it's not American cheese. We don't acknowledge that kind of cheese. We just call it burger slices. G'day.
Yeah, that's illegal. It's illegal,
right? It's illegal. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. I'm laughing because I'm kind of that person in real life.
But that's good. That's a huge asset because you instantly, and it's not it's not a boring thing. It's like calming cool heads. Everybody might get emotional and you just walk in and it's like all of a sudden like, all right, we're chilling out. You're right. We're everybody gets a chance to catch your breath and you're like putting on that. It's like putting on that smooth song, smooth jazz, and everybody sits down and goes, all right, yeah, okay. Now we're all right, we're chilling, or maybe Rhino Ray and Zeke and I are doing that, but everybody else is just I don't know.
Rhino Ray for sure is.
Yeah, dude.
Well, thanks for saying that, man. I'm glad that comes across.
It does, dude, and everybody feels that way, dude. So keep bringing that smooth jazz vibe to the rooms, man.
I love it.
I want to talk about, because I'm an educator. I have my other podcast, is the Educators Podcast. Season 2 is coming back soon.
Nice.
As an educator, I am fascinated with the direction that education is going to be going, because COVID really showed a spotlight, at least definitely in the United States education system. I spoke with Dr. Poppy Gibson, a friend of mine. She's in the UK. She teaches teachers in the UK. So she and I have talked a lot about this. I have another friend, Dr. Ray Roberts, in Saudi Arabia. He was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. And now he and I went to school together. Now he's a teacher in Saudi Arabia. He teaches English, teaches English teachers to teach English to Saudi Arabia citizens. But we're all seeing the same things. I'm curious if you see it too in education, but also the direction where technology is heading. Because I want to talk about Learn, which is LRRN.com. Do you see? Well, first of all, just tell a little bit about it. I want to understand kind of how the education system is in Australia, but also, do you see globally and the purpose of having an education system that is significantly AI based, and what are the benefits and what could be some of the potential pitfalls of that?
Okay, so
we could take each point at a different time. I threw a lot out there, but because I'm just fascinated by this.
I love it. No, it's a great question. I don't know how qualified I am to tell you about the Australian education system. I feel like
let me tell you something. Were you ever in the Australian education system?
Yeah,
You're qualified.
I was. Cool.
Yeah.
Although I don't remember much of it. It was sort of in one ear out the other.
Well, and that's significant that you didn't have much of an impression, and that's a problem. That's a problem of the system.
I remember certain teachers. I definitely want to say that certain teachers made an impression on me. But in terms of the curriculum, and I just don't feel academia is my style of learning.
I think a lot,
which I think is really common. Yeah.
If I
So
might
when it
ask real
comes,
quick though, if I might
yeah,
ask, what was it about those teachers that stuck out to you? That what do you remember about them?
just good folk, you know,
Mm-hmm.
good folk be good folk. There are certain teachers that make the classroom a welcoming presence instead of
Mm-hmm.
something that you dread.
Amen to that. Yeah, I became a teacher because of my favorite teacher, my favorite fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Owens. And I can't tell you a thing she taught me, but I can tell you how I felt being in her class. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah. It's like, so
I,
that's what I
I have
remember.
teachers like that too.
And I wanted to be a teacher like that. I wanted my students to feel that way, that they say, I mean, they did learn stuff. I promise you, they learned something. But like, I wanted, people, there needs to be a value in education, right?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, the specific knowledge can be found in textbooks and online and
Mhm.
wherever it may be 10 years from now. um, so I think what the value in education is teaching kids how to think,
Mhm.
um, how to behave around each other, because we spend so much of our time in school. So like there's a lot of our emotional intelligence needs to develop there.
Mhm.
There are so many things that play a part that, again, I don't feel qualified at all to speak on, but this is just um, just my observations. I feel the need to preface.
Okay.
Um, when it comes to AI, so I'm developing, and actually I'm not working on it the way that it's written about on the email capture page anymore.
Okay.
So I have a quick story about that, but we'll get to that in a sec.
Mhm.
Um, AI in learning. I think the benefits are that it's basically a really good glorified assistant. So it just cuts down time.
Mhm.
A lot of time spent skimming through information that you may not need at this present moment. So it's just a way to cut through the fluff in my mind.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and I don't have any thoughts on how that may look like 10 years from now. I just have one specific use case, which is mine. Um, I love to, if I'm watching a podcast or a long YouTube video that's informative, I love to pop in the link to ChatGPT and get a summary. Or if I've already seen the video, hey, I remember X and Y were talking about this concept, but I don't want to go through the video and look for it. Can you give me a
Yeah.
quick summary? So it's just a beautiful tool in that sense. And I don't know how that can be applied to education on a wide scale, to be honest with you.
Well, I wish I could do that with some people I know. There's not online. There's some people in my some relatives of mine. I wish I could just take, hey, can you ChatGPT, can you sum up my stepmom's story for me? So we can get to the point of what she's like. I love you. I love you, Joyce, my stepmom. I love you, but let's wrap it up sometimes. But yeah, no, and it's interesting because I come from the in the classroom and teaching online, and there's so many different learners there. People, students learn so many different ways, and a lot of times, it's more effective when kids are immersed in their own learning, when they have agency, when they're involved, and they know that there's a clear purpose. So it used to be when I was in school, it was lecture, regurgitate the information. You had to take all these notes. You really weren't invested in what the learning was. You weren't putting a bottle of water into ice to watch it change its state of matter. You weren't, experiencing these things. And that's what I wanted to do is I wanted the kids to experience this stuff. But like you said, cutting down the fluff, there's so much fluff in a lot of education where I feel like, and as a teacher, we're supposed to differentiate our instruction for each individual student. even students that don't have special education plans, every student learns differently. So like
Mm.
Tina is going to learn differently than Tommy. They may have different similar interests, but like specifically catering a lesson or something to Timmy is going to be different than Tina. But what it sounds like to me is what you're
Wow.
working on is exactly that, where the AI is going to learn how specifically to teach Tina and specifically to teach Tommy the same topic, but in the way that they learned. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
That sounds awesome. That sounds like, damn, I could have used that as a kid.
Right?
Uh, we all have the experience of, well, maybe not all, definitely not all of us, but I've had the
No.
experience of feeling like everyone understands this concept, but I'm still stuck on page 2. Like, can we go
Mm-hmm.
back a second? Not everyone understands everything at the same pace, uh, and certain concepts may be easier for you to pick up on than others.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it does make sense to have a more tailored curriculum, at least
Mm-hmm.
bespoke to you. So this is sort of what I write about in my landing page for learn.com. Is that curriculum based learning is a way to standardize what you need to learn to be sufficient enough at this subject to proceed to, I don't know, next year to pass,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But in that, you're you're going to inevitably uh you're inevitably going to not tailor to everyone. There's a more
Mm-hmm.
sophisticated way to say that, but
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of edge cases that don't benefit as much as they could have if it was one-on-one mentorship, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the purest way to learn is, okay, you know a lot about this topic, show me, and then I'll do it, and you can show me where I'm going wrong.
Yeah.
Like that's how you learn on a job, like in the real world, at least
Yeah.
from my experience.
There's modeling, guided practice, and then support, and then yeah, it's that. Do you do you like Vygotsky? Are you familiar with Vygotsky's zone of proximal development?
I'm not, no.
This is huge for us, man, especially for what you're working on. Vygotsky, Vygotsky talks about the zone of proximal development is that there's, like, for example, I always use learning how to tie your shoe, like kids learning how to tie their shoe. When they this level right here is level 0, is where they can't tie their shoe at all. They have no idea how to do it without someone tying it for them. And then up here is they're able to tie their shoe completely autonomously on their own without any help. Everything in between is like, okay, I helped them mostly. They started it, they crossed the laces, and I did the rest. Then okay, they cross, and then by the time they get to here, okay, they can make the rabbit go around the hole, or that, until they get to the top. And that zone of development is where the learning takes place. Because, and you don't want kids to be, you don't want you don't want things to be too easy, because then there's no disequilibrium, and then there's no learning taking place if it's too easy. But you don't want it to be so impossibly hard that there's no, like, they're so confused that there's no growth, you know. But where that differentiation is, okay, I'm gonna put you here until you can master that, be proficient here, and then we're gonna gradually get you to here. And one of the mistakes I think that education makes, and again, I don't have the solution, but it sounds like you might be onto the solution, possibly, is like, first of all, we're understaffed. There's a huge teacher shortage. There's a support shortage. We desperately need teacher assistants because we have too many kids in a classroom, and we can't give them the individualized learning that they desperately need. The other side is, I think we focus on reaching a standard before you move to the next grade, rather than focusing on the skill. Like, for example, there's fourth graders that read at a second grade level, and there's second graders that read at a fourth grade level. why are we not challenging them at the level that they're at? And I think that AI can do that. If we focus less on like, okay, in order for you to get to fourth grade, I don't know, do they have grades in Australian school? Before you get to fourth grade, you have to pass all these subjects. Well, what if it's more like, okay, you're at a fourth grade level with math, but this is where you are with reading? The AI would be that teacher assistant, would be that one personalized instruction to get you there. And, I'm brainstorming. I love this, dude. I think you're onto something with this.
Dude, I'm learning from you. I'm learning from you.
Oh, this is cool stuff.
I love this as well. So I haven't thought about the implications of. I have thought about it, but again, I also don't have the solutions.
Mm-hmm.
To me, learn.com is so to give people an idea of, because we've been mentioning it. Basically, I was working on a course platform where online educators can upload their courses online for people to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And it would basically have integrated AI chatbot, AI integration, right? So every lesson that you would be watching, say if we're watching a course on X growth, you would be able to have an AI on the side of the video trained on the concepts from that lesson, and you could ask it questions. That's the basic concept. Because I wish that existed. Because I might be learning something. I might be learning something, and I might already be familiar with a lot of the stuff. So I don't want to watch every single video in a course about XYZ topic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a time saver. It's a good way for focused revision, so you don't have to physically watch a whole video again that might already be familiar to you. It's a lazy way to learn specific knowledge as you need it.
No, I don't want to say lazy. It's an efficient way.
It is
efficient. Yeah. It's not lazy.
No, I agree. Like there is an efficiency in laziness, though. Like right? that's what laziness is. It's to preserve energy. Like it's a human instinct we have to preserve energy. So we say it in jest, but that's literally efficiency.
True. Absolutely.
Look at this mental gymnastics.
No, I'm buying the whole thing, man. I'm in 100% agreement with you, dude. That's cool, man.
That's the basic concept, and I'm kind of not working on it anymore.
You've paused on it, which you may come back to at some point if somebody else, maybe a retired teacher that's turning 50 soon, might decide to go in on it with you. You never know. You might work on it again.
Hey, perhaps. Never say never.
Never say never.
Right now, what I do want to ship is just a Chrome extension version of that. So it might already exist for all I know, but I just want to build it as a personal challenge.
Yours
anyway.
Yours will be better.
For sure. Check it out. Learn.com.
It's the best Chrome extension. All the other Chrome extensions are terrible. This one's Redim's best right here. It's the golden one.
It's got the Trump seal of approval.
It does. It does.
Love it. So what the reason why I'm not working on it anymore is I got feedback from someone that I view as a mentor from afar. There's a podcast that I love about business. It's called My First Million, where they basically just go over business ideas that they think could be $1 million ideas. Aside from being valuable, it's also just really entertaining. The hosts are just fun to listen to, right?
Mm-hmm.
I jumped into a space where they were doing a listening party of this podcast, and I thought, oh, this looks cool. And someone tagged the hosts, and one of them joined. And it was his first time ever being on a space. His name is Sam Parr, for those familiar.
Okay. Sam Parr.
He was like just figuring out what this space thing is, and I was like, oh, quick, put up my hand. I can ask for feedback on my idea. And he basically tore it to shreds. Respectfully, okay. Not throwing any shade.
What was his feedback? What was the feedback he gave you?
He basically did the napkin math for me that I hadn't done. And he told me that it's not a profitable idea. Like it's too expensive to run, basically. And he gets turned off at the idea of when he hears chatbot as the main feature, which I totally understand. It's a turn off. It's a red flag because it's sort of gimmicky. But that's not the main criticism. I understand that. The main problem that I'm solving can already be solved. Like you can already upload a textbook into, or a chapter of a textbook into ChatGPT. I can show you how to do that if you want, if you're not sure how. So as a business idea, from a point of view of money in, money out, it's just not, it's not the type of business that you want to be running, especially as like this is your first startup. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to give up on it. He even said, prove me wrong. But I do want to pivot. So I'm just going to focus on it. What's the simplest way that I can do this is it can be a Chrome extension.
But maybe instead, maybe the problem is just the word bot, like if he's thinking, because that might be too derivative or too simplistic. It's not a bot. It's a differentiated educational assistant.
I love that. That works.
Right. And
yeah, it is. It is partially my elevator pitch that needed work.
No. Again, I mean, you were on the spot. I mean, you were, and see, I always think it's kind of like too, is like he tore it to shreds, but like
I say that just to play it up a little bit.
To play it up. I mean, you went on, just because you went on Shark Tank and they all turned you down, it doesn't mean it's over. I mean, I think you've got a really good idea. And if I could identify your who for this is educators, because and you're talking to one now, and I just encourage you to go check out, just randomly choose one of my videos from my educators podcast. And one of the frustrations we all talk about is how overwhelmed teachers are trying to do so much with so little support, as well as having to differentiate education to kids that don't want to learn because they don't see the value and they're insecure about their own abilities. You can't feed a closed mouth. And if the kid already feels insecure, if the kid doesn't want to take the jump, if the kid already has a negative feeling about it, or they don't understand something. But if you have a personalized, not even just for a classroom, but differentiated to that specific student. And if we could develop the AI to where it learns from the student how to present information, then that's going to be like their BFF. And it's something that can follow them as they go through their academic career. They might start off with them in first grade learning their ABCs, and then because then that AI goes, remember in second grade when you learned regrouping? Well, now it's this. It's like it stays with them.
That's honestly a beautiful vision. Like I could have used that.
Take it.
I hadn't thought of that. That wasn't what I was working on with learn.com, but that sounds amazing. Like I would love to see that. I don't know if I'm the person that will build it, but
well, you can be part of the team. We'll talk offline some more about it, but that's definitely something I think that's worth pursuing. I don't want to get away from it, but you left, stopped working on learn.com, and now you're looking for the Chrome extension. And what else are some of the things that you've been exploring that's of interest to you?
It is very much just exploring at the moment, like jumping into spaces, talking to people. Like I said earlier, you asked about the who instead of the what, I think.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure I'm not skipping the step of the who. So that's the step that I'm on right now, is figuring out where can I provide value. So it's very much just exploring. It's talking to people, making friends online, enjoying it, and not thinking too much past that.
No, that's good. That's healthy to think that way.
I have ideas for potentially what's next. I got asked to be on this podcast and another podcast within days of each other, and that made me think, oh, maybe I could probably start a podcast. Like this sounds fun, and
Yeah.
this has been a positive experience so far. So
Cool.
I'm kind of inspired maybe to go in this direction too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I encourage you. Go for it, man. You've got a lot of good thoughts.
I had a podcast. I did 4 episodes of a music-related podcast, and then I gave up.
No,
it was just an experimental thing, and
Mhm.
all right, not going to continue with this. But being on X and Space and getting to know so many wonderful people makes me want to pick that back up. So that's a potential direction for me.
Mhm.
I could look into like hard skills that I could offer people. I don't really know. It's very much exploring at this point.
But that's good though, because I think sometimes people rush into stuff too fast. And I mean, typical human being sounding like a hypocrite. Because on one end, I'm saying, you got to take that chance, you got to dive and go out there. But on the other side, don't commit too hard to something. Yeah, it's kind of both, because you want to do some exploring, you want to kind of, but you do want to take those chances. And if you do decide to start a podcast, you've already done one before, so you're starting with that experience. And I years ago, down over a decade ago, almost 2 decades at this point, I was doing internet radio, and that's actually where I met my wife, was on internet radio. And we would, this was before it was called a podcast. It was it was radio, but it was on the internet. And we had 2 shows, and one of them was called Reality Check Radio, where we focused on reality TV stars like Survivor, Big Brother, that kind of thing. And we had a blast doing it, but then life got in the way, things stopped, but we were happy and all that kind of stuff. But I've been able to draw upon that, and teaching has helped me with podcasting. But when I started this podcast, I wasn't starting at ground zero. I had that background. And so the same with you, is you already have some of that background, and spaces are great for just practicing that talking, having a conversation, being able to hold a conversation on a topic. And I definitely have struggled with it today, but I have to always remember to shut up, Mr. Burden, and let the guest talk. But
no, please.
I think it's great, and I think that you definitely want to take those. And I'm assuming, you're in your 20s, right?
Yeah, I'm 26.
So 26. You've got so much life ahead of you that this is the time to really experiment on the stuff that you want to do. Really, and and being a jack of all trades, you may have several different interests, because not only do I do Mental Health Mondays, I've got the Educators Podcast. I also am a co-host on a pro wrestling podcast every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Dynamite Download. Get your merch. But
hell yeah.
But that's the thing, is it's like I have all these interests. You look at folks like Amber. She's got all these different interests that she's into. You look at Blaze, Ben Chaos Danger. All these guys. I say go for it, and you'll find your niche. But I will say this: good old Emerson, trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. And I think whatever you've got it, whatever you pursue, whatever you put your mind to it, I know it's gonna blossom and flourish, buddy. Go for it.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate that. And you're totally right. Being on Spaces has helped so much with just confidence that I will get to the end of this sentence without the world ending. Right?
Yeah. Oh no, they're gonna hate.
It really is a perfect format just to practice.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle to speak for long amounts of time when I know that there's a reason that I'm speaking, and it's like, oh, this is being recorded, like there's a purpose for it, or it's on a space. But just doing it so often now has made it a lot easier.
Explain in detail here, Redim, on this recorded podcast.
Oh no.
Tell us more. Will you elaborate, please? Right? I know, right? Yeah. But it's important. Isn't it important though to also like not take yourself too seriously and be able to laugh at yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. It just makes it more fun.
Mm-hmm.
I need to remind myself of that. I was actually just in this vein of thinking of, oh, maybe I should start a podcast again. I was brainstorming name ideas, and one of them that I came up with is actually, I have to confess, ChatGPT came up with it, but I really liked it.
What? Oh, not a chatbot.
Not a chatbot.
No.
Not just a chatbot.
No, ChatGPT.
Sip of seriousness. Very serious. We only touch on the most solemn topics.
Well, I don't know if you're going to want me as a guest.
somewhat in jest, because I feel like I take myself too serious sometimes. So it's like, it's nice to advertise it as a serious, the world's most serious podcast in irony.
Well, Lex Friedman's probably got you beat on that, but I think it would be pretty cool if your logo, it's like this very serious, and then just people just get in there and it's you're laughing at each other and stuff like that.
Or trying to.
That's pretty cool, dude. Well, hey, go for it, man. And it's funny too, because I think everything needs levity, but also, you can laugh at yourself and laugh at things, and it doesn't mean that you don't take it seriously. Like we take mental health very seriously, but also part of that is being able to laugh at yourself and having, bringing joy and kind of dealing with that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. And if you need a guest, man, I'd love to pop on there with you.
Hell yeah, of course.
I'll be serious. I'll practice my serious face.
We have to be really serious. Extreme, no laughing. Laughing aloud.
Yeah, right? No laughing. Yeah. I'm not laughing.
We have to put on our best Lex Friedman impersonation for 2 hours.
This is Redim. This is Redim Ameti, and he's chatting with Mind Runner, and this is the podcast.
And today we're going to talk about love.
That's perfect. No, I'm gonna try. This is Redim Ameti, and my guest is Mind Runner, and we're going to talk about my smoothie balls.
Smoothie bowls, I believe, are the future.
And the future is smooth and ball shaped.
The deepest parts of my heart.
Yes. Sometimes somewhere between the teeth. Oh, dude.
Had to get extra serious.
Yeah. It was almost a scary, like a don't laugh contest. I'm like,
yeah.
All right. Well, Redim, this has been tremendous, dude. I've had a blast. Let me just ask you, how this being kind of your first podcast, and how do you feel it went? How do you feel about it?
I feel like it's gone by in the blink of an eye, man. This has been a blast.
Yeah, dude. We're already an hour and a half right now.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It's been fun, dude. Thank you for popping my podcast guest cherry.
We always remember your first,
Yeah.
And thank you for your smoothie balls.
For sure, man.
Well, go ahead. So how's it going?
It's been a pleasure, and I feel like you are, when you told me that you've done a lot of online radio, which I didn't know was a thing, it clicked for me how smooth you've been as a host. Like, it's just been so the fear that I had being a guest was like, as a host, you can kind of ask the questions and put some of the pressure on the guest to speak, and I was like, I'm afraid to, like, what if I run out of things to say? Like, there's always that worry, but you've just made it super easy. So cool. Thank you.
Well, you're enjoyable and fascinating person. Even if you may not see it initially, you're a fascinating dude to chat with, man. You've got a lot of cool stuff going on. Don't leave that chatbot idea, completely on the shelf, though. I think there's some stuff to that, but I'm excited to see whatever you endeavor next, man. I know is going to be fire, to use Journeyman's parlance. But any final words of wisdom on mental health for everybody that's listening?
Oh, eat kimchi. It's good for your gut.
Don't smell it, but my
Yeah,
dad used to tell me whenever I was in trouble that I was in deep kimchi.
Oh,
Yeah.
Want to explain the meaning behind that?
Well, because we lived in Japan for a couple years, and I don't think kimchi's necessarily a Japanese delicacy, but he's familiar with kimchi, and apparently the smell of kimchi is pretty foul. So that's
Yeah,
kind of what he was alluding to, is that if I was in trouble, I was in deep kimchi, like, deep doo
yeah,
doo.
yeah.
But yeah,
I love
that's
that.
kind of you're in deep kimchi. Oh no, Dad, I'm sorry. But yeah,
It's a beautiful, beautiful string of words.
eat kimchi, don't sniff the kimchi. There you go.
There we go.
Well, and on a more serious note, hey, whatever you're thinking about getting into, go for it. Dive right in before your brain realizes you're doing it, unless it's an empty pool. But other than that, make sure you dive right in, go for it, because you never know. You might be really cool at it, or you might have a lot of fun doing it, or it might be terrible, but you enjoy doing it, and then the next one's going to get better. So, yes, and
yeah.
you are awesome. Have a great one. Thanks for Redim, Ameti, and for everybody out there thinking about starting something creative. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.